day, everybody. I'm Troy Hudkins. This is Lessons for Life podcast, and I have a guest with me here today, Rose Sprinkle. Rose, thanks for joining me.
Sure. Happy to be here.
That's awesome. You've been busy the last little while.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm
with
usually busy. Yes.
with all your things, and you just recently got married, so that keeps
hmm
things busy as well. So let me start. My first question: Who is Rose Sprinkle?
Oh, that's a loaded question. And I hate talking about myself. It's a good question because I think I always usually struggle with that question myself. I feel like I've been 87 women already in my lifetime, and I'm only in my 30s. Um, but I will say that when I wrote my book, that Little Love is based on my own experience, and I think that that's what drove me to write the story, was trying to make sense of a period of my life that was really, really stressful and really, really difficult, and some major life challenges. And I think writing down my story as if I was observing myself versus experiencing it firsthand is what helped me give myself the grace and the compassion to overcome those trials and actually relate to a lot of people who feel the same way when they're going through, when they're going through life. So I would say that I'm a very emotional person. I am a deep thinker. I'm very sensitive. But I'm always trying to find the positive, and I'm always trying to push myself through things that I don't understand and trying to look at it from a different perspective.
Nice, awesome. So you've written one book, and it's already been out there and published.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
is amazing. Do you know what kind of numbers you have for sales?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. It's one of those things where it was more about just, I think, a therapeutic, like I'm just going to get the book out, and because I knew that it was a story that everyone can relate to, and I feel like they needed it just as much as I needed it.
Right,
And so I think that's why I love the book so much, is it becomes a platform to really learn about other people and to help them feel vulnerable enough to know that they're not alone in their struggles. And it helps me feel better because it's almost like a way of serving and giving them permission to say, this is really hard and I don't know what I'm doing, and like
right.
I don't know. And so I don't know the numbers. I probably should.
Well, I do know that we have your book and it's autographed, and I love that.
Yes, I always love autographing books and giving it a personal touch,
Yeah.
super cute.
Well, we've all my family has your book, and it's actually been read multiple times with my kids and their kids.
Oh,
So it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, when you were growing up, what kind of influence do you think your parents had on you and who you have become?
That's a good question. I think growing up, my relationship with my parents, I loved them very much, but I wasn't sure how to relate to them. And I think that I felt very, there was a lot of estrangement. Like I wasn't sure how I fit into the family because I felt like I was an odd duck. Like I always wanted to be achieving. I always had these big dreams of things that I wanted to accomplish. And my parents are very realistic and grounded people. And I think that has actually helped probably make me a very more well-rounded person. I think if I wasn't raised by my parents, I would be doing like grandiose, like I wouldn't be able to relate to people. I think I would just be chasing these unrealistic, crazy dreams, like in
Chasing the
yacht.
dreams.
Yeah, I would be like constantly moving. And I think as I've gotten older, we've kind of have really built a bridge, and we really have started to understand each other a lot more. And like now, we probably have the best relationship we ever have. And I've actually realized that I'm just like my dad. Like we were just talking about this yesterday. I said, I'm just like you, Dad. And because we probably butted the heads the most when I was growing up, because he's very strong-willed, I'm very strong-willed, but we're both extremely hard on ourselves. And
Yeah,
so now I just have compassion for this little old man, and we're kind of best buds now. But I
it's
think that
awesome.
their hard work and their work ethic and their ability to just always to probably the best quality that rub off on me.
I think your internet cut out for a minute.
Oh,
Um, their hard work and will.
yeah, their hard work and their ability to always kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. They've
Okay,
they've always been very diligent people that I knew that I could depend on,
right.
and they're
Nice,
proving that even in their 70s. So I need
nice. Your
something.
parents aren't that old,
I know is it 70s?
right?
It's crazy.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, but
I mean, we lived down there for quite a while where you are,
yeah,
and now we're back up in Canada. But I can't believe it's so long when I talk to people from down there and, or talk to them,
yeah,
talk about them and think about the things we did. I mean, we moved down there in 2001. That's 20 years ago,
I know.
right? Like it seems like yesterday, but it's been a long time. It's amazing. And I mean, we've been back here for 10 years and seeing you now and talking to you is amazing. I mean,
I
it's
know.
awesome.
I really learned it is a small world, and like that people will always come back into your life. And I'm a big believer in preserving those relationships and continuing them in all at all times and all different types of seasons
Nice.
of life. And so it is exciting.
Okay, so one of my questions later on refers to that. So, how important to you is it to have strong, positive relationships with friends, family, people, coworkers?
Yeah.
How important is that to you?
For me, it's like air. I have to have I have to have it. I have like there's no leeway. I have to have good positive relationships to feel my best self, to feel edified, to feel myself grow as a person, to feel like I am needed and that I have a purpose. I have to have loving relationships.
Nice.
And, so for me, it's everything. It's what motivates me. It's what brings out the best in me. It's what makes me feel happy and peaceful and content. And I think without that, when I start to get stressed, and I think I kind of allude to this in the book, because there's a part where little love, like, she starts chasing beauty and she starts chasing fame and she starts chasing kind of like achievement. And when I feel like I'm unraveling or I'm spiraling, I tend to load on more. I try to supplement human relationships with projects, and I will just keep my mind as busy as I can on something to engage it so I don't have to think about how painful it is for me with a stranger.
Okay. Yeah.
And so people are always like, Rose, you're doing so much. And I go, yeah, and sometimes it's not. That's not healthy. And so we all have our ways of coping. And I've learned that I may not be a drug addict or I may not be an alcoholic, but I am an overachiever. And that is just as addictive.
So, like some people call retail therapy.
Yeah,
They go
exactly.
shopping, they buy stuff, keeps their mind off of what's going on.
Yeah. And so for me, I have to continually force myself to slow down. And I mean, like, something as simple as like, I need to take a shower and I need to brush my teeth, because my self-care is always what I suffer the most. And so I have to I have to be better about balancing that always.
Yeah.
That's that's my weakness. So,
How do you deal with people that come into your life that are um, negative or, I guess, a poor influence when they're around or something? Like, how do you deal with with that kind of stuff?
It's a good question.
Like
It's
what do you do? Like if you're, say you're at work, I don't know where you work, but say you're at work in an office and you got 3 or 4 coworkers, and for the most part everybody's always great, but one day somebody comes in there and they're so down and so negative and stuff. What do you do to either help yourself or help them? What what's your fix, I guess, for that?
a really good question. That's something that I'm still figuring out. And I've learned how to work with myself when I get in those moods, but working with someone else is completely different because you're we naturally think that they think like we do and that they're going to problem solve like we do. And like I'm just learning that that's just not the case. They're not me. I don't know what they're going through.
Everybody's not like Rose.
Everybody's not like me, which what? Right?
Yeah, pardon.
There's not rainbow, you know. Um, and I think my natural inclination is to go into fix it mode always because that's
Right.
what I do. I'm a doer. I look at a problem. I say, okay, what's going to be helpful? What should I do? I break it down into 500 steps in my mind and I put it all down. And that's how I achieve everything that I achieve. I've become a master productivist person. But when you're
Nice.
dealing with someone who hasn't mastered that or hasn't figured out how to push through their own stuff, I've learned that I can't force them. They have to do it themselves. And the only thing I can do is just be supportive and encourage them. And that's it. And for me, that feels very scary because I want to be able to take control and just go with the pace that I'm used to, which is like a rocket pace, right?
Yep.
And in my mind, it's not
Uh,
that fast because I'm like, well, I'm still a very laid back person. I mean, anyone can come and chat with me and I'll make the time and I'm happy to do that. But I am so used to how I live my life that realizing that other people can't go at my pace and they need space is something that I have to honor their boundaries. And I think I just need to set
right.
boundaries with me. Like, I can do this for you, but I can't do this. And so I think maybe honoring what they need and expressing what I need is what I have to do. And sometimes I don't do either or both very well. I'm not a very patient person. And that's my biggest one of my biggest weaknesses for sure.
Well, you've always been patient when I've known you. You would,
How's it get along?
right?
Right? I mean, you're asking me like if you're getting along with someone, there's no need to be patient because you're just jiving and it's like, woo, it feels great. When you're with someone that you're like, holy
Yeah.
crap, I can't even get behind this, and you're just feeling like all you want to do is punch them in the face. You're not patient, you know, you're not gonna feel
Right.
you're gonna be kind of grunting and white knuckling it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so let's go back to your family for a bit. You have siblings.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of influence did they have on you, or did you have on them? What do you think um, about that dynamic, I guess?
Oh man, these are Troy. You're making me dig deep. These are really good
Well,
questions. Like,
this is supposed to make you think.
yeah, this is family relational stuff. This is big. This is big deal kind of stuff. Um, it's interesting. So I'm the second youngest of 5 kids, and we were spaced pretty far apart. Like I think 5 years in between my youngest sister and then my older brother above me. And so half my life, I was kind of like a younger child raised by the older kids. And then the second half of my life, I was like the older child. So I've had a bit of both. And I think when I was younger, because of the age differences, it was very much like, what the heck? Like, we're kind of living separate lives, and all of my siblings have very different personalities. So my
Okay.
dynamic with my siblings is we're all very blunt. Like, we don't sugarcoat anything. We call each other out on stuff. We tease a lot, but we have a really fun time doing it. And as we've become adults, you know, like we've actually have probably gotten closer. There's still some tensions, because I think when you're dealing with different personalities and different ways of how they view your family growing up, we have different opinions about things. But I think ultimately we still really care about each other. And for my role in the family, I would say that I'm always a very outgoing, love to be around my family, love to spend time with them, kind of person. And we definitely have some like negative Nancy's in my family, or Debbie Downers is what we call them. I was a little, they have grown quite a bit, and that kind of helping me out, now in my life. So everything comes full circle is what I'm learning.
Nice. And you do you think you were a good influence on your younger sibling?
I think so. I mean, I think that I've always tried my best. And I think that when I have been wrong and when I have kind of lost my way, she has been very quick and loving to correct me. And so I think that we have both been a good influence on each other, and we've worked through some things, and we are probably closer now because of those differences.
Nice. Nice. Right on. Um, is there anybody outside of your family that do you think has had a huge impact on who you've become?
Well, I think I'm talking to one of those people. I think that
I would
so
say I would say more my wife than me.
not true.
Just saying.
Yeah. So I live, for all the people listening, I live with Troy and his family. Well, not lived with, but basically I was over there
Pretty much.
pretty much every day for like 2 years or something.
When
And
we'd come home and hear the TV on and know somebody was home, and we'd go down and there's no kids, and we'd say like, Rose, where's the kids? He said, oh, I don't know. Nobody's home. We're like, oh, okay.
I've just acclimated myself as part of your family.
Yep. You were part of the family for sure. Anyways, carry on. Sorry about that.
Um, but yeah, I think during those years with my family when things were very strange and kind of difficult, I think people like you and Nancy and people with just big hearts and welcoming arms just kind of helped give me the love that I needed and the confidence that I needed to be able to like move forward. And so for me, that's something that I've always heavily has relied on in my life is my friendships and people who are teaching me things of different ways to handle things, different ways to think about things. And I have a very innate curiosity about how people work and about how people make the decisions that they do or how they relate to life. And so having examples like you and Nancy have just been like, very influential in helping me do that. So you can
Awesome.
never you can never express or really let people know how much they mean to you. Like even if you've said it a million times, there's just no way to really show all the gratitude I have. And I've never forgotten those years. Never forgotten you too. You've always been in my thoughts, and I think that's how I feel about people who have influenced me. There's always going to be a loyalty and a kinship there for me.
Nice. Well, I appreciate that because honestly, I never felt or knew that we were that big of an influence on you, and that's awesome to know. Thank you very much. And I'll tell Nancy too, because that is awesome. That is very awesome. Um, of all the good traits that your parents have taught you or that they have, what is something that you would like to pass on to younger generations?
That's a really good question. I think for me, the biggest thing that I always try to define my actions and my thoughts is how I treat people. Like I don't
Nice,
ever want someone to come into my home and feel like they're not welcome there.
nice.
And I I think we've kind of gotten into this culture where people are so self-obsessed. And not like I don't struggle with this because I've talked about this. I struggle with this with my achievements, right? That's a self-obsessive thing where I'm just thinking about myself constantly about what I want to do, what I want to do. And I just think that I wish that people would develop a sense of gratitude and wonder about the world outside themselves and how they're affecting that world versus what the world can do for them. And
Right.
so if anything with my kids, like there will not be talking back. Okay, this is my dream world. I'm not a parent yet, so here we go. This is my you'd be like, hey,
Good luck.
good luck. Yeah. But I think just whatever differences I have with my children,
You locked up really good this time.
and that they're cared about. And I think that we just need that in the world now more than ever.
Yeah, you locked up really good. We only cut the last bit of that.
Oh,
But
sorry,
that might be a good thing for your kids in the future. You can tell them this part where it blocked out, that's all the bad things I said.
This is what I said. No. Hilarious.
um, how important is education in your life? And do you think which one do you think carries more importance, classroom or life lessons?
Um, I think they're both important, and I think they're important for different reasons. I personally am of the believer that you can learn anything, and you don't need to go to formal training to do it. For most things, right? Isn't, but you know, I think that the value of classroom training is that you're forced to learn in a different way, and you're forced to kind of collaborate with other people, and you're forced to deal with things that you don't want to deal with, and that's kind of what life is. Like,
Right?
I do not excel in a classroom setting. My excel is I want to learn something on my own time. I want to take an online course. I want to be out in nature. And I think there's different ways of learning for that very reason. But I am grateful that I still had classroom training because it forced me to develop social skills. It forced me to learn all the soft skills and all these other things that I probably take for granted. So, but I definitely think that I err on the side of I get frustrated when people say something like, "Well, I didn't go to school for that. I didn't get a degree in that. Or I didn't." Well, shoot, I didn't get an English degree. I didn't. You know, it's just I get sad when people come up with justifications for copping out of doing something, and I can just see it so plainly. Like, don't let that self-limiting belief stop you. Just do it because it really is.
Excuses. Yeah.
It's excuses and it's understandable, but it's really just a matter of like pushing through. Like, I think success and achievement isn't based on talent. I think it's just based on like practice and work ethic and
Drive and desire.
drive and desire and pushing through the parts where you want to give up because it's really easy to get discouraged, and I get discouraged. You know, it's easy to see like something on the shelf and be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But if you think about it, I don't get to see a lot of that interaction. I don't get to see like the effect that the book has when it's being read at night to a child all the time.
Right.
You know, I don't get to see that. I know that it's happening, but unless I'm hearing that feedback, I don't know. And so
Right.
it can be a very lonely road when you're trying to push for your goals because you don't always see the impact that it's having. Just like you said with you and Nancy, you're like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
have. So it's for me, it's just a mathematical, you know, I got to throw so many free throws every day if I want to get good at something. And if
Right.
I'm not doing the work, then of course I'm not going to get what I want. So there's no other, that's the truth. I can't argue truth. I can't argue logic,
Right.
like
You
bottom line.
can't you can't dream it and sit back and put your feet up and turn the remote control.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe where I struggle the most is because I try really hard. And if I still can't achieve something when I've tried really hard, that's when I take it back because I'm like, I put in the work, I put in the sacrifice, and if that's not paying off, then I have a really hard time offering myself that grace. Like it's okay. You don't have
Right.
to. You don't
Let's
have to.
try something different.
Let's try something different. And
Yeah.
so you just constantly have to be problem solving, and you have to be okay with problem solving, and you have to be okay with looking at your reality and saying you have problems.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
it.
Nice. So with all your learnings in life so far, how do you know when you know?
Whew, Troy, making me cry. That's a good question. Um, how do you know when you know? I think that it's always healthy to have some kind of level of introspection, to question your own reasoning and your own logic. And for me, aligning your values to what you believe is right. And if I've done everything that I know is aligned with those values of, am I doing everything that's right? And then still questioning that, still, is there more I can do? Is there something different I need to be doing? Do I really, I think truly people are always trying to do their best at any given time. I think sometimes that it falls short. I think that no matter your intentions, I think that no matter how good you mean it or how badly you want something, sometimes it's still just not enough, because that's the nature of being human and that's the nature of working through challenges. For me, sometimes I don't know when to quit. I want to keep going always.
Right.
So I think my natural inclination is I have to be honest about what role is my role and what role are things that I can't control. And am I okay with not trying to change the things that I can control?
Right.
And if I'm not okay with that, then I think that's when you know.
Nice.
I don't
If
know if
you
what I just said, but that's my train of thought.
if you uh if you can't control things and you know that and you realize that, you can control how you deal with those things,
Yes, you
right?
can know how you deal with those things. And that is something that cannot be problem solved in the way that you do when you're looking at a project.
Right.
That's a package. And those
Go ahead.
hey, hey, okay, it's just a package. Nope, you're okay. Goodbye, goodbye. Okay, they're fine. Um,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
I think that I think it's I tend to blame myself, but I think I tend to blame myself with just stepping outside and saying, is this something I can do? Is this something that I can see as an opportunity for me to still grow? Maybe just not in the ways that I thought that I would.
Yeah. Yeah. I always, every time I ask people and they talk kind of the way you did about controlling your actions, but not other, either other people's actions or the way different things present themselves. When you can't control it, I always think about Cassidy playing hockey, because one of his coaches, Cassidy, would come on the bench and be a little upset because so and so passed the puck ahead of me or behind me, never passes it to me or whatever. And the coach said to him one day, he says, you can't control what they do, but you can control what you do. So when they pass it to you and you know what's going ahead of you, you take an extra stride. Or if you know what's going behind you, slow down or cut a little wider to receive the pass. And it kind of changed the way Cassidy started thinking about it. And like you said, you can't control those situations, and when you know that you can't control them, when you realize that, that's when you know. And
Yeah,
like I said, when you can't control those situations, you can control how you deal with them,
yeah,
or how you react to them, right?
yeah,
So that's a big thing, I think.
yeah. I mean, I was just reading a book called like Killing Patton, and they were talking about Bastogne and how there were these foot soldiers in the trenches that were like holding this front line for like 5 or 6 days waiting for this battalion to come save them. And I just thought about like what that would feel like every day, being like, I have no control. Half my men are gone, and I'm just in this foxhole. And I'm thinking, how did they not desert? How did they not just leave? How did they not just run
Right.
for it? How did they find the fortitude to just stay? And I think that is when you strip away please you and are pleasant. It's easy to be motivated when things are pleasant. It's easy to be motivated when things are easy. It's easy to be motivated when you feel like things are good and are serving you. But that, I think, is the difference between just pure integrity and selflessness versus what's in it for me. And I think that my natural tendency is to always think, what's the benefit of this for me? What am I getting out of it? And how does this benefit me? And I'm basing that on their behavior versus my own, versus what can I do?
Right.
What can I do to make this a better situation? What can I do? And I'm really honestly feel like I'm just starting to understand that just now. Like this last week, I've been thinking about that a lot. And that's a much harder thing to do than take all the blame off of somebody else and say, I'm responsible. Cass is
Yep.
responsible for that puck, even though he got a crappy pass.
Right. Right. So
And that's,
yeah, yeah, and you've got to adjust and make the best of it, right?
yeah, and then make the best of it. And I think still not sacrifice what you want at the same time.
Right. Right.
And that is a very courageous place, I think, to function from.
Nice. So, with a little bit of chat about hockey there, has sports ever played a role in your life?
Yeah, I love volleyball. I could play volleyball all day, every day, and never be bored. And I think a lot of it is because I am a very collaborative person, and volleyball to me is a very collaborative sport. Everyone has their
Nice.
roles, and you need everybody on that team to be functioning in those roles in order for you guys to win and play well. And so I miss it. I haven't played in like so long, but I think that that's what I love about it is just a fun, competitive. We want to do our best. Let's work together to make it happen and see what we come up with. Because I've learned that it is so much better when you have other people on your team than
Nice.
when.
So, tell me, collaborative, tell me what being on a team or in a team environment has taught you.
It's taught me that everybody has a purpose, and it's also taught me that like you're not supposed to be good at everything. That's why you have a team. And it's taught me that if you delegate and you respect people and you basically hold them accountable and say and acknowledge them for their strengths, that they're going to perform for you without you having to push them.
Nice.
Like acknowledgement goes a long way, and trusting somebody with something to get it done, you don't need to motivate them. They'll do it for you. They'll do it intrinsically because they feel that trust and that respect, and you don't need to push people. So for me, if ever I'm working on a team dynamic, I'm always asking, like, is this something you're interested in working on? Do you feel comfortable doing that? How do you feel about this? I'm always asking, what do you think? How do you feel about it? And so they all have equal buy-in. So there's no contention. It's just like, yeah, I'll take
Right.
that. It's cool. And that's really what you have to do is just recognize people's strengths and give them stuff that meets to their strengths, not their weaknesses.
And things that they're excited to do.
Yeah, things that they're
Yeah.
excited to do. And that way, when the work comes up that is really crappy that nobody wants to do, like you have a good rapport. So like you're willing to chip in even if you're not excited about it. You're like, all right, but I'm helping out my buddy. So like, let's do it, kind of a thing. And I've just learned that like that nature of thinking about your coworker first really pays off in the end. Even when you try to get promoted or you're trying to excel yourself, they'll back you up versus like trying to fight you
Right.
for it. They'll be
Right.
like, oh, like I'm okay with that. So
Right.
that's kind of what I've learned.
Nice. What has been your biggest motivator, do you think, so far?
Me.
You're your biggest critic too, right?
I am my biggest critic, and I also just continually try to just talk to myself and push myself. But for me, it really is the people around me. It's my friends, it's people I admire, it's lessons from history in the past. It's just constantly wanting to be a good person, and relationship with God. And I think understanding how He wants to use me, and understanding, um, I'm waiting because this says my internet connection is stable. Understanding how He wants me to grow as a person, and kind of accepting His vision versus my own sometimes, and that gives me the strength and the motivation to keep going.
Nice. Nice. What would be your biggest fear, do you think?
Oh, I know my biggest fear. I've just been learning about this, but I've learned that my biggest fear is not feeling like my needs can be met. That's my biggest fear.
Okay.
My biggest fear is being too much or wanting too much and that being a bad thing. My fear is that I'm lonely because I want so many things that other people don't necessarily care about.
Right.
And
Right.
it can be very alienating.
Right.
And so I've kind of learned to be my own advocate, which I think is why I'm such an advocate for other people, is because I want to be that cheerleader for them. Like, you can do it. But I think my fear is that I have to do it at the expense of, like, because no one else will. And
Right.
fear of mine.
Right. What inspired you to choose the career that you are in?
um, I changed my major a lot in college, and I was kind of always like generally good at a lot of things, but I couldn't figure out how to apply that day to day. I like having structure just as much as I like having spontaneity, and I have to have both. And I took a digital media class because my friend thought, Rose, I think you'll really like it. And it was the first time where I felt like I could take all of my skill sets and actually apply it day to day and come up with something tangible. And so for me, it's about constantly perfecting my technical skills,
Nice.
constantly like leveling up and learning new things, but then still being able to give a product or something tangible that people love. So whether that's like photography and graphic design, marketing, all those things, I just like being able to wear many hats, and design and books kind of allow you to wear different hats. And so I like to switch it up a lot.
Nice. So, and that's what you work in right now is digital media,
Yeah. So right now
so
I
to
work at,
speak.
yeah, I work at Amazon full time, and I work in a video studio, and I'm doing like motion graphics and things like that, and online
Nice.
education. I like teaching. I like lecturing. I like getting on my soapbox.
You,
So
I was gonna say you don't like talking.
I think it's because it helps me process my thoughts.
Right. Right. When that's one of the things I used to um so the couple people that I've asked the question to, how do you know when you know? And they didn't even know how to answer it. They were kind of, I don't know. I'm not sure. And I always feel like if you can teach it to somebody else, then you know, right?
That's a really
Like
good.
like you're saying, if you like to teach people, you like to be able to talk to people, and you like to process your thoughts that way. Well, if you can process that out and somebody else can take it and know what you're saying, that's when you know, right?
Yeah, and really that's what little love is, right? Like, I have all of these thoughts, and I'm trying to succinct it down into something that people understand so easily. And like little love, it's not that long. It's very short. It's actually a poem, version, rhyming. And so for me, as we're interviewing, this is me thinking live time. This is all the creative thinking that is just kind of blown up on paper. I just like chalk it down. I have to empty my
Right.
brain because there's so many thoughts in there. And then I'm able to strategically look at it and simplify it. But when we're talking live time, I will just ramble and ramble and ramble because it makes me feel good to have answers and to complete thoughts, but I can't just think about it and then do it. It's, you know.
Yep. Have
So
to talk about it.
I'm always impressed with people who can very succinctly express themselves very clearly. That skill, and I need to.
Nice. You locked up there just for a second, so I didn't catch everything, but I think we got the gist of it.
Yeah.
Um, so let's go back to Little Love for a while. So Little Love is the name of your book, right?
Mhm.
So tell me, let's start with your book. How did you come up with the idea, and how did you find somebody to illustrate it for you, and and what um, you kind of explained it earlier about the story, but tell me about Little Love and what it is all the way to the end, kind of.
Yes. So I actually had the name different at the very beginning. I had it Little Faith. And I realized as I was writing the story that that was completely wrong. Um, and I think, again, because this is written from my perspective, it's about this girl. She has a hole in her heart, a physical, literal hole in her heart. And she's trying to figure out how to fill it and how to make herself happy. And I don't think just happy, but I think find fulfillment. I think that's
Okay.
different. She's trying to be content. And I think that's what I always struggle with the most. And so she goes on this journey. She meets these different characters. She meets Fame first. And she kind of gets really successful and has lots of fans. But then she realizes that that's still not filling herself. Then she meets Beauty, and same kind of thing. She tries like changing her hair, putting on makeup, and she realizes that that's not really fixing this hole that she has. And so in the end of the book, she meets a version of herself that's complete and is whole. And she realizes that in order to fill herself, she needs to give. She needs to serve people. She needs to think less about herself and more about others. And she needs to be, seeking wisdom and seeking truth and seeking principles and not seeking things of the world that don't give us lasting happiness. So this is my ultimate struggle. And I think I changed the name from Little Faith, Little Love because I realized that this isn't a faith issue. This isn't, it's like that, if anything, can tell you how hard I am on myself. Like, oh, she doesn't have enough faith. She doesn't believe enough. And I'm realizing that's not the issue. She's not loving herself. She's not
Right.
really taking herself not for granted, because she can do all those things, but that doesn't really matter, right?
Right.
Doesn't matter. So that's what the book is about. And there's two on the way: Little Brave and Little Envy. And I'm very excited about those two as well.
Nice. Do I get autographed copies again?
Yes. I, I wanted them to be done by Christmas, but it's looking more like spring, like April,
Yeah.
and they'll probably be released at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Little
Awesome.
Brave is about a knight, and I resonate with this story a lot too. Little Brave is a knight who figures out what real courage is, and Little Envy is a mermaid who realizes that you don't need to chase other people's dreams.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. When did you first know that you were going to write a children's book?
So, in high school,
Okay.
I always have. I kind of believe that when you put a thought or a motivation in your heart out into the world, that eventually it will happen. And so I knew that I had a desire from high school to write a children's book, but it didn't happen until, whenever I wrote the book like 2 years ago. I had a dream, and I woke up from that dream, and I just had these thoughts just come into my mind. It was just like I wrote the story probably in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It just,
Nice.
and I keep a pen and paper usually by my bedside so that when I feel inspired, I can write down these thoughts.
Right.
So I, it just flew out of me. And I think it was just a story that was being built over the last couple of years subconsciously, and a lesson that I was learning, and probably one that I always need to constantly be relearning. Um, but it was just easy to tell because it was my own story. So
Nice.
yeah.
That's awesome. And you only physically wrote it 2 years ago, a couple of years ago. So up until this point, was it always in the back of your mind? Was it always something you kept thinking about? Do you have it on a dream board? Like, what inspired you to all of a sudden write it 2 years ago?
I think it was just time. I think that writing for me, I'm learning, is becoming a very cathartic experience to kind of see all my thoughts on paper and to challenge them or to see my way of thinking. It wasn't like I just was like, I'm gonna write a children's book and like I'm just gonna write a children's book and like pick a topic. It didn't happen
Right,
that way. And there's nothing
right,
wrong with that. There's tons of people. I mean, yeah, of course, that's awesome. Pick a topic and go write a book. But
right,
this goal didn't come about that way. And usually mine do. But I think I just always had the desire and then I saw the opportunity. And I'm an opportunist. So when I see an opportunity, I recognize it immediately.
right,
And I am like, I knew that this had the potential to affect a lot of people. And I knew it was something special. And I
nice,
think I've just developed a sense for that. But in addition, yes, I always have like a vision board for the year. Every year,
nice,
I sit down and I think, what's the priority this year? Or what should be my priority? And that's probably a good thing for me to practice because, like I said, I'm all over the place. But it really helps me figure out what my goals are and what I want to be focusing on. But
nice,
if someone's out there who's like, I want to write a children's book, like that's my goal, then just make it happen.
nice. Nancy always has, and I'm sure you know from when we were down there, she always has a theme for the year. And like she doesn't have a New Year's resolution, it's a New Year's theme.
Yeah,
And
it's a,
like one year it's service, or one year it's um, better better family life, or you know work harder on you know um, achieving your goals, like just different things, right, each year. One year it was all about let's get our finances in order, and one year she's really been struggling with some of her health issues since we've been back here. So one year it was her theme was this girl is on fire, the Alicia Keys song, right?
that's awesome.
And that was her motivation for the year. So she always has um, uh, a theme,
Yeah.
so kind of like, it's just it's neat, the vision board, the themes, that kind of thing. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's like an inner guidance, I think, because like we've seen 2020 has been terrible, right? Like there's just been so much. But I think that when you've grounded yourself in what you know that you're focused on, and you've grounded yourself in what you know you can attribute or want, it changes everything. It changes your life. It changes how you show up. It changes how you function. It changes how you treat people. It changes how you react to things that are happening, because all it doesn't matter. It's like my theme would have been the same no matter if 2020 had happened or not.
Right,
And so because I'm focused, I'm not distracted by all of the chaos. It's just it doesn't matter. But I mean,
right,
like it comes to a point where it really doesn't matter. And sometimes I think that can be more helpful than a lot of other tactics that people use. But
right. If you could do or be anything at all without any possibility of failure, what would it be?
I think the deepest desire that I have is to really just um I don't know how to put it in a word. It's just what I picture in my mind is just really empathizing with people.
Okay.
I, I mean, like I think it's just a matter of being able to connect, not necessarily just through joy, but also through pain. And I think like in my mind, the people that I admire the most, the people that I look up to the most aren't like me in that sense. Like they think about others all the time. There are people in like the healthcare field, there are people who are own well-being and sacrificing their time and their effort, sanity, and so many other things to continuously give. And I just respect that a lot. And I think that if I could be anything great, it would be to be a mother that way, or to be an influence to my community in that way. Just someone who
Nice.
is there to constantly support and to bring people together rather than tear them down.
Nice. Nice. That's awesome. What do you do in your spare time to take your mind off things?
I used to think that my projects were me taking my mind off things, and I'm realizing that's not true. Like, let's do my Amazon job and then work again until midnight, and that's me taking my mind off things. It's not. So for me, I'm learning that I need to connect with nature. I need to be taking a walk or writing in my journal or calling a friend. Those are usually the three things that I do every time.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love your property, by the way. That's Nancy showed me pictures. You got the nice yard, you got the lake there and stuff. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a big blessing. I'm not one of those people where I care about my material things. I really it's more about like I just want freedom and I want
Right,
to be share it with people. So I'm always like, come over because I don't care, that whatever.
right.
It's not about status. It's about just like I want to be able to be in a beautiful place that I can look out the window and be grateful for every day. And
Like sitting right here.
exactly, like sitting right there. And I
That's
realized,
me.
yeah, and I'm not always I'm guilty of not always appreciating even the house that I live in or the property because I've noticed that everything gets stagnant. Even the things that you've wanted get stagnant.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
we took a vacation just recently up to Leavenworth, and I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like a breath of fresh air, even though I live in this beautiful property. And I thought, what the heck? Why is that? And it's
yeah.
because it's easy
That's
to take things for granted.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Nancy and I. We talk a lot about the Silverhill waterfront because that was our favorite place to go, just to go and sit. You know, sit
Yeah.
on that bench, that one right there, and just look out over the water. Sit there for an hour or whatever, and then go home. But just like I said, I love your property, not necessarily that it's anything fancy or anything like that. Just the fact that it's a nice little property in the woods on the lake. I mean, that to me is amazing. To be
Yeah.
able to go out on the deck and sit there with your feet up and just look at the water and listen to the wind blow through the trees like that, to me is totally relaxing. You
Yeah.
know, ever since we've lived down in Bremerton, we've come home or home to Canada. Nancy has a wave machine we put on at night, and it's the ocean waves, just the
Yeah.
sound of the ocean, and it's just so amazing.
Yeah.
So it's
It
it's
re-
nature.
yeah, it really is about just the simple, small things. It like that's it. It's if you want happiness, it's about content in the tiniest moments. Like you said, like a breeze
Yep,
or feeling the sunshine on me or going down and looking, at the ducks. It's not these like grandiose moments. It's the quiet moments that I absolutely love the most.
yep,
Sound of a crackling fire. I mean, it's just, and yeah, I love that you're putting on a CD. Like, you don't have to be in this environment to still invite that in.
yep. Oh, we love that. That's one of our favorite things.
Yeah.
Turn on the ocean waves. It's just amazing.
It is
It's so
amazing.
relaxing.
I think it's because it helps gives perspective. I think it because it helps pull you out of the daily grind.
Yep.
It's like nature continues to live on and it continues to exist, and it's a blessing, and it's something that really is meant for us to enjoy.
It's our place of peace, I think we could say,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
mean, we lived out in it for thousands of years before we started building houses like the ones that we do now. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think our nature and our souls naturally are drawn to it.
Yep. Yep. Do you do any sort of meditation or yoga or anything like that to quiet your mind and help your uh, inner healing, your self healing, I guess you would say?
That's a good question. I have gotten in the better habit of doing like um not hot yoga because that's really intense and I admire people who do that, but I'll do like warm yoga where it's just deep stretching. And I very few times feel like my mind will slow down. And
Nice.
I realize that it's directly connected to my physical experience. So I think that's maybe why I enjoy people so much, is because when I truly enjoy someone's company, I immediately relax. And I get that
Nice.
same sensation doing yoga, meditating. Um, and for me, unfortunately, tanning. It is, I don't want skin cancer, but I have realized that there is something about being in a tanning bed that just relaxes me in a way that I have not experienced anywhere else.
Right.
I think it's just that warm sensation and being able to just be cocooned. So I love it.
Close out the outside world.
Yeah, close out the outside
Right.
world, close out my mind,
Yep.
put it on rest for a little bit. But
Yep.
everyone has your strength can also be kind of like your thorn in your side, right? Like
Yep.
I love being curious, and it also exhausts the crap out of me. So
Right.
yeah,
Yep.
fire. It's fire
Sometimes you just have to step back and take a rest.
things to help you overcome those challenges.
Nice. Right on. Is there anything in your life that you wish you could go back and change?
Oh yes, I
Okay, so
I
so
I mean I think that it's as a catch-22 because there's always things you wish you would change, but it's not so much the events; it's more just how I handled myself. It's
okay,
kind of like knowing what you know now, you wish you knew then.
right,
And I do believe that like all of the trials you go through will ultimately be for your gain in the end. I've gotten to where I am not because of my successes. I've gotten to where I am because of all of my failures. And
right,
I think looking at failure in that lens, where this is going to be good for me if I allow it to be, suddenly I don't feel so victimized all the time. And that's something that I think we can all use for our benefit.
right,
So yeah, I don't really regret all the pain that I've been through, but I definitely think that I wish I handled myself better. And I wish I could
right,
take back the pain that I caused people.
right. So so then looking at it, if you could go back and change things, would you?
I don't think I don't think that's the point of it.
Okay,
Yeah,
good call. Good answer. Because those experiences have made you who you are today,
yeah, exactly.
right?
And
And if you change something, are you who you are today? Or are you somebody totally different?
right. And I have had opportunities where people have said, Rose, this was really hurtful to me, and I immediately am grateful for the opportunity to be able to apologize and make retribution. And I think that that's really important. It's important,
Nice,
it's important to forgive, to be forgiven.
nice. And you're a very kind person. I know that.
Oh,
And you are very blunt, just like you said with your family and siblings. And I feel like I'm the same way. You know, I say things the way they are and stuff and hope that I don't offend too many people by saying them that way. And if I do offend people, I try to, try to make it right with them or whatever. But, you know, you're a very kind person and you're loving and caring with people. And I think that is a big benefit to you and all the people around you.
Sorry, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I
Um,
can be red blunt sometimes. I think I can lean on the passive aggressive if I let things sit, and I can say, "Hey, you're crappy," and not be afraid to say that. You know.
right, right,
Um,
exactly. What would you say has made the biggest difference in how successful you have become?
I mean, I think that people define success in different ways, and I don't really look at my life and think, "Oh my gosh, I'm so successful." It's kind of an interesting question because I wouldn't say like I'm so successful. I think it's just more of, am I living my life the way that I want to live my life? I've always been kind of like a beat my drum, my own drum kind of person. Because not everyone's perception of things is going to match with what I think is best. And at
Right,
the same time, just still learning that there's value in what they're saying as well. So for me, success is more about, am I happy? Am I happy? And I think that's a question that I've had to ask myself a lot more versus like, you know, is this gonna be the next big thing? It's
right,
about my family, it's about friends, it's about doing work that matters to me, it's about making a difference. It's about those things. And if those core things are threatened, that's when I feel like I'm not being successful. You know?
nice, nice. And that's a good definition of success for you, right?
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
family, your friends, your core values. That's
yeah. Or like,
awesome.
I wish, that I was better at being consistent. And I'm not a very consistent person. And I wish that I was more consistent. And I struggle with that all the time. And so for me, like, if I want to be better at my life, I have to be consistent. And so for me right now, I don't feel like I'm doing really well at that. And I think that I've been more successful at it at other times in my life because then I know that I can output things like really love and not be stressed. I mean, there was a time where I was working almost like 50 hours a day and I didn't feel an ounce of tiredness because I was taking so good care of myself and I felt energized and
Right,
I miss that energy. I don't have it right now. And it's not because I can't have it, it's because I'm not living my life in the way that will facilitate it.
right,
So this is a pep talk for Rose to be like, you need to get back on the band.
right. What one thing in your past do you think has given you your greatest life lesson?
Oh man. I think going through grief, I think through losing a loved one has been my greatest life lesson.
Okay,
I think knowing how precious and and short life is, I think knowing how much of an impact we have on people around us, on the world, on nature. I think being conscious of what's important and what's not, and fighting like hell to keep those things that are important to you close.
nice, nice. That's
Has
awesome.
been awesome.
That is awesome. What's the greatest piece of advice do you think that has ever been given to you?
I think the greatest piece of my advice that's ever been given to me has maybe the idea. I can't think of like a saying, but kind of know where source of truth is to make sure that your source of truth is a righteous source of truth, and to be continually
Nice,
drawing on that is your emotions. Yeah.
nice, awesome. What is your idea of perfect happiness? I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this already, anyways. but everybody else doesn't. So
I think perfect happiness is just being around those you love and them loving you back.
nice. That is awesome. That is very awesome. Tell me 3 words that you think best describe you.
Um, I would say, oh, this is hard. I feel like it'd almost be easier if you said it. I would say um, optimistic, realistic, and motivated.
Nice. That describes you very well.
Yeah, I guess those good.
It does. It does. I know you, so I can say that. So picture yourself. I've related this question a couple different ways, and I think I'll relate this one. Picture yourself in a room, okay, and there's a door there. Describe describe your door to me.
Like what it looks like?
Yeah, describe your door.
Oh my gosh,
Well,
I just pictured a door. But I guess if I'm in a room in my door, I think my door would be just like beaming with light. I think it would just be like a glorified entryway, just full of warmth and light, and maybe a stairway up to heaven. That would be my door. Continue
nice.
going upward. But yeah, that would be my door.
Okay. So now open your door and tell me what's on the other side.
I think I think it's just pure love. I don't know how to explain that. I think it's just glory in whatever way you would define that. Like I kind of almost picture like a white, just bright, pure hope. Pure hope. That's what it would be.
Awesome. Awesome. Maybe that's your next book, Little Hope.
There is there are some themes that I definitely do have a little faith
Good.
and a little hope would be a good
Good.
more additions. So
I think that's amazing.
mm, it's
Your
cute.
your your little book library.
Yeah,
That's
I do.
awesome.
I know. I think for me, one of the biggest motivations of writing it was just the the picture of being able to read these to my kids. I think that's a very tender and very personal image in my mind. But being able to see them learn what's important and learn that they can control themselves, you know, and how they look
Nice.
at them.
Nice. Nancy, a couple years ago, Nancy made books for all our grandkids with their names. You send it away, and they make a story out of your name. It's called the girl who lost her name or the boy who lost his name. And throughout the book, the story, they go and they find certain animals or whatever that give them a letter to their name, and it spells their name by the end. And probably the last week or so, Mackenzie's daughter has been asking for that one for her bedtime story.
Oh,
So
that's
it's kind of cool because she told us last night when we were visiting with her that she says, "Guess what story I'm reading, Maha?" So she's reading that one every night. It's pretty amazing.
yeah. I
So
think they're precious because they don't have any ulterior motives. They
no,
just want to be loved. That's it.
it's
And
real. It's real all the way.
yeah, exactly. And I think
Yeah.
that's so.
I think it's so cool when you do have kids and you'll be able to read them your stories. I think that will be amazing. That'll be a great experience. If you had a magic wand
Yeah.
and you could do one thing for you, what would it be?
Oh, I think it would be to never have to work ever again.
Rose, you know you would never stop being busy. You may stop working, but you'll never stop being busy.
I think it. I think it's. I always feel like I never have enough time because there's so much that I want to do.
Right.
For me, it's like I just wish I had like an infinite amount of time and energy to do all the things that I wanted to do without the distraction of like a realistic income. Because
Right.
my like I watched my dad work like two jobs his whole life, and I'm always trying to outsmart. How can I just get money without having to do a lot?
Right.
So I can have the time to work on these way more important things that really make a difference versus is just like money coming in, you know?
Exactly.
So for me, that's a challenge because like, I got married way later. I'm 33, 34, and I've always had to provide for myself. And so my natural instinct is to always be thinking about how do I bring in income? How do I bring in income?
Yeah.
And I wish that tiny brain would just shut off. So that would be my answer.
Nice. If you could write a letter to your younger self, what age would it be and what kind of advice would you give?
Oh, that's a good one. I think I would probably write maybe my like maybe like my 16, 15-year-old self, like about that time where you're kind of getting out of preteen, adolescence, and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life. And I think I just would have told her that like she's going to do amazing things, and just to be patient and just to be patient with yourself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. If you could have lunch and a chat with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh man, all my best friends. That's it. I can read books about dead people. I'll talk to them when I die, but you know, it would just be my best friends always.
Nice. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh, I do have some kind of like draw to Scandinavian countries. Like I love the idea of Switzerland or like Norway or something. It's something
Nice.
about their values that I really just jive with. So that might be an interesting place. But my other answer would be someplace hot because that is going to be freezing. And maybe like Arizona would be nice. Just heat.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
What is your go-to music for making yourself feel good?
Uh, chill. So like I really like Sarah Bareilles, Mumford and Sons, anything that's very like just relaxing. Jazz music, lots of classical music. Basically anything that's gonna make me feel good and happy. So that kind of
Nice.
stuff.
Okay, so that being said, if you were stranded on a desert island and the device you had could only play one song over and over and over and over and it would never stop, what song would it be?
Three Little Birds from Bob Marley.
That
Like,
was
wow,
easy for you.
every little thing is gonna be all right. That's what I would listen to over and over again.
Nice. Nice. That is awesome. Okay, so final question. If Rose Sprinkle has learned everything in her life that she's ever wanted to learn and she's done everything and accomplished everything she's ever wanted to, and when you pass on from this life, you take everything with you. Nobody knows who Rose Sprinkle is when you go, but you can leave behind 3 lessons for life. What would they be?
It would be don't worry about the things that don't matter. It
Nice.
would be um, you're not more important than anyone else, but you still are important.
We lost you there totally.
And oh, it would be that you're not more important than anyone else, but you are still important.
Okay.
You know, like give, but don't put yourself down. And I think the other thing would be that God is good. He's always good. That would be
Awesome.
the
Awesome. That's awesome. Great interview. I enjoyed talking with you, Rose. It's great
yeah.
to connect again.
I know it's a
And
great compliment.
yeah, I love the idea of your books. I think it's great. And anybody that's out there, look up the books. Can they find them online?
Yeah, if you go to thelittlevirtues.com, or if you look on Amazon and type in like Rose, it's under my maiden name, Rose Stanek Little Love, it should pop up. But
Nice.
yeah, The Little Virtues.
That's amazing. So everybody out there, look up Rose's books and support her as a budding novelist, as a budding children's book writer. It'll be a novel one day. You'll put them
Yeah,
all together and it'll
exactly.
be a big novel
Yeah,
of mini stories.
yeah.
Thank you very much, Rose. It's been a pleasure. And everybody out there, thanks for watching. This has been Lessons for Life podcast. I'm Troy Hudkins and my guest, Rose Sprinkle. And join us next time for another episode. Thank you.
Thanks, Troy. Okay, bye.